Here we mock up our Fabricated ITB that's from CBR 954RR. We mocked it on a D16 Z6 that we're currently refreshing amidst the B20 build. But wait a minute. You know, I just realized we never got to talk about my personal engine. It's a D16A6, locally an ESI with Bisimoto cam. So we'll get into it more now. It's the 24th of December. Amidst getting busy with preparing for Christmas Eve, I decided to go to the workshop to be able to give you guys a footnote of what's in store ahead for us, and it's gonna be real awesome and interesting with all the developments that we have in store for you, and we'll keep showing you now. And as we assemble the D16 CVtec, we mocked up the ITB that we fabricated. So here it is, and you can see it looks really good, and we'll show you the length right now. It's actually 9.7 or 9.78 inches, almost 10 inches from the head flange to the velocity stack opening. And the total length, because the port area or the port length is 3.2 inches, it's about 12.9 inches or 13 inches. So now let's show you the butterflies. You know, it's really hard with just one hand. Now, here we are. You can see all the way to the intake ports. You can actually see the divider and even the valves. So this is how efficiency is more achieved when you go with ITBs. Some say it's for mid-range, sure, but it doesn't mean you can't run a bigger cam. This way you got mid-range and the cam will take care of the top end. And don't they look so good? And you can see the runner entry is much more bigger than any intake manifold. And before we show you the mock-up of this B series ITB, check this out. Now let me shift back to my engine for a moment. The reason why we can't really document it better is because it's already installed and running. It needs further tuning and a dyno, but we'll try to keep you up to speed. That's the head that I did for my engine. It's a D16A6 or ESI head, and the setup is actually, we're gonna write it down for you to see. Fully ported ESI head, a D16A6 block from an ESI with PM7 stock bore pistons, ARP rod bolts on stock rods, of course. Camshaft is a Bisimoto level 2.x and Bisimoto high RPM springs. The main reasons on why I'm building this, and I built it, is because there's such a something like a unfinished project or business, because I sold the cam to Bong's customer, and when we dynoed it, it made 148 wheel horsepower on 117.9 or 3 feet-pounds torque. This actually ran 14.2 seconds on an ESI 4-door. 4-door without lightening, nothing. It went that fast. Gets me curious now because that had less compression and no skunk 2 intake. And plus, you know, I think I know more now than I did before. So maybe this time it might go into the 13s. Who knows? Alright, now onto the velocity stacks, because we're trying to give you a preview of what we're gonna continue to offer or study on and share with you guys. Here it is. This is the generic velocity stack you can get from eBay or locally from Lazada. Let's get the ruler. Okay, so it's 6.5. Okay, so it's 6.5 diameter on the entry or the outside, and it's 3 inches on the inlet or on the outlet toward the intake pipe. So it's 6.5 by 3. That's about sums it up, the usual velocity stack. Now let's get this one, the baller one. It's a carbon fiber velocity stack, CF. You know, what all the racers like. And it's 8 inches onto the 4-inch to the intake or to the pipe. So it's 8 by 4. right? The other problem I don't like is that because it's 4 inches, you gotta use an adapter or reducer to get your 3-inch intake pipe. So imagine, while we go crazy about inlet radius or how it tapers and good, and then you're gonna put this before the intake pipe, it's kind of like not really an obstruction, but it causes restriction on drag. It's like when you reduce too abruptly. All right. So we did this actually because we always want to get things better. Yeah. This we molded the carbon velocity stack just for specifically the entry. So it's still 8 inches in diameter, but we reduced the taper towards the intake pipe into 3 inches. And you can see, let's get the paper so you can see the background. See? It's radiused a lot better, right? Now let me put a masking tape across the curve so that you see it better. Because it's dark, We could barely see even with improved lighting. Okay, here. Okay, now I put masking tape just to show you the arc. Okay, let's speed it up. Here we go now. Look at that curve towards the inlet and compare it to the carbon fiber one. The carbon fiber one is not that bad. It's just that because it's 4 inches, it doesn't curve inward anymore or any further. So instead of running an abrupt rubber reducer, we curved it this way. See, now it's 3 inches at the back or at the bottom, but you can see the curve is really, really good, like gradual. This, we all know, would probably make or let air flow inward easier and pull more velocity. Like as you see, air comes in and it gets to squeeze each other a little bit better or gets more efficient. Air from even the sides, it gets pulled in because the velocity stack, the design is for the inlet radius or the air intake to pull more velocity from stagnant air or ambient air location. Like for example, on a flow bench, the air around it is stagnant, and that's when the velocity stack can show its benefits. But the problem with that is those material that we can research, especially from Gordon P. Blair, like from the video that we did that you can click up here, those are actually quite correct and very good research. The moment we put it on the front of the car as our inlet, we change the whole thing because now it's turbulent air, no longer ambient air. I mean, you can't limit your innovation just because. Now going back to ambient air, like for the dyno, as air is pulled from every direction towards the velocity stack, even from its perimeter, you notice the radius on the outside is a little too abrupt. Not too much, but hey, we know it can be better, right? So we did this. Ta-da! Alright. You see, now we extended the outer perimeter, and I just used Bondo and lots of hours of sanding just to get the curve right. So now you can see the perimeter has a nice curve, right? So on the dyno, or when it's ambient or at least stagnant air, your velocity stack can pull air even from the sides, not just forward, or for not just from the front. So this is gonna be a good one to test on the dyno. It's gonna go from the outside, as you can see. It's gonna be easier, and don't worry, we're gonna update you guys when we get to test this on the dyno, and it's gonna be good. Now going back to forward facing velocity stacks, Because it's more turbulent and no longer ambient air, we think since airflow tries to take the easiest way around our path, maybe half of it is swerving away from the inlet. So it's not being as efficient as we expected. And if you remember our video on velocity stacks, we data logged our 12.1 second run and it still showed -1 pressure vacuum on the intake even over 114 miles per hour. So I think anything over 100 miles per hour, this is still considered subsonic, obviously. So when I checked it and talked to Bisimoto, because he's a chemical engineer actually, and that dude is just pure scientist, we talked about it and we had a little good informative banter. And I figured something out and I researched and look at this. The North American F-86 Saberjet. Notice the inlet. It's not a velocity stack, right? And it takes off subsonic around 500 miles per hour. So when you think about it, Next is the Mikoyan Gurevich or MiG-15. Look, that's not a velocity stack, and I believe it needs the most air on takeoff, or at least efficiently. So both actually look really, really good, you know. It's actually maybe fun to fly. Another interesting tidbit is this. Take a look. Now, I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag. He might get mad at me, but hey, our eyes know what they see. And that's not a velocity stack. And so, aside from that, I know we need more area or volume for the inlet because we were seeing negative. So, we did this. We needed more cross sectional area. There you go. This is 6.5 inches tall and 10.5 inches wide. So an oval. So because a velocity stack is not ideal forward facing, we did this. This way we get the most area, you know? And don't worry, we're gonna data log this whenever we race or use it. Look at the difference. That's like double. That's twice the conventional velocity stack. Maybe this time it won't be negative or it won't create vacuum lacking air. That's 3 inch at the back, and it's smooth inside, so it's pretty okay. That's it. And so for the bigger engines or for the 2 liters, we have this. It looks like a monster, but nah, it's still a good thing. It's 7.5 inches tall and still 10.5 inches wide. But the backside is 4 inches. It's for all motor engines that, demand more air. Look, the blue velocity stack looks tiny. And we did a trick inside. If you notice, we actually molded a smaller velocity stack, or actually similar to the blue one, but it's 4 inches. We molded, and so that area is actually a velocity stack. So, you're capturing more volume of air, but at the same time, you're filling up the intake pipe efficiently. So, hey, if it don't exist, innovate, right? And we're gonna start testing this, and, I'm pretty sure we would consider selling this to the market if it's effective. So, yep. We'll start running faster, but at the same time, we'll always keep you guys updated on the changes and developments. So, there you go. And I must admit, it actually looks pretty cool, I mean, at least it's different from what we see every time there's a race or every race event, And so, yep. And we're gonna keep adjusting or tweaking the design until we get the best result altogether. And we almost forgot to show you the ITB on this B20vtec. We're not gonna use this, we just mocked it up because it's the B series engine that's complete right now. This is an OBX Toda copy ITB, which I plan to use when I get to build my own B series sometime this year. And for sure, we will test a lot of different things on this machinery. Oh, it looks really good, huh? Yep. Now going back to the bench. We share this. This is one of the top secret things that we did. This is inspired by the legends of dseries.org and one cam only. Namely, Mr. Bone, aka Charles. He's the man behind letting me learn a lot about transmissions. Like, for example, everything that I know right now is because of him, especially how I figured how to myth bust the local VTI transmission. You saw that video, right? Also, Glennis, the Acid Beaver, and Les Sohc from One Cam Only. These guys were always the innovative one. We always talk about ideas and whatnot. And of course, they came up with this idea. It's TBRIA. Throttle body, radius, inlet, adapter. And I just did something a little different but similar. It's a funnel entry or a Bellmouth right in front of the throttle. But of course, when you do that, you lose the intake length. So you lose the Helmholtz resonator or the stacking. So I had to adapt a shape that would lead into a normal 3-inch intake pipe. And that's how it is right now. And yes, I will also test this even on the dyno on my own car, because this is a personal development. It's a trick thing, and if it works, hey, that's gonna be good, right? If it mimics power of a ram air and a cold air at the same time, oh, that would be crazy. And of course, you guys will be the first to know. And yes, that was and is my username in all of those forums, /. So click here to continue your research or check this playlist for more. And subscribe, will ya? It helps us to help you guys when we share our information and all the ideas.